Hi, in today's episode, I sat down with a 60 something year old man who has been following the Grateful Dead since the 70s. And we had a really great conversation about all the concerts. He's attended over 200 Grateful Dead concerts and over 1,200 concerts altogether, and 250 non Grateful Dead concerts of Grateful Dead related bands, like the spin off bands and members, Phil Lesh and all that. So we had a really great conversation. It does cut off a little bit quick at the end because I only had 1 hour between my voice lesson clients today. If you would like to support my channel, the first thing you can do is just subscribe. That's free. Just press subscribe right on this page. And you can sign up for notifications so that if I have a new episode, it will let you know. You can have it send you emails if you want. Like when I do release new episodes, if I have a live stream, it will notify you when I have live premieres. And then if you want to do anything further than that, I do have a membership tab within YouTube where the members get access to my videos early. Usually my videos are now published 5 to 7 days before they get released to the general public. So you'll have previews like my Doors Greatest Hits episode. It's an hour 16. Abbey Road, an hour 9. Tomorrow's episode, Europe 72, is going to come out for everybody, but it was out for members first. So that's one way you can support me. You can send tips within YouTube itself under videos. You just, there's a way to send a tip right here in the comments. I don't think I can do it on my own videos, but yeah, there's a way. So you can send a tip right in there. It's called thanks. See right here, I did the drop down and this ... thanks. And then you can send money there. Also, if you do it on an iPhone, they charge you more money because Apple takes a fee. But if you're on a computer, it's the cheapest way. Then a third thing to consider is under my link tree, I have a link to other things. If you want to make a request, fill out the form. If you want to send a tip with it, great. Here's some payment options. I have social media. If you want to message me, like Instagram has messaging and all that. What else? Oh, so I have a crowdfunding. I'm trying to crowdfund these new headphones. Well, also these Louboutins, but I don't think I'm going to get the Louboutins. But the Bose headphones, which I thought would look cuter than my these blue ones. Which, by the way, these blue ones will just go to my son when I acquire my pink ones. And he'll be very happy as a 13-year-old to have used good headphones. And I can have the pink ones, which will match my outfits and my nails better. So far, someone did donate $25 towards the headphones, or 37 or something. Whatever, 12% of them are now funded. So if I get to the rest of that, I'll be able to get those. And yeah, I hope you enjoy this interview. I've been connecting with a lot of you personally. I'm doing another interview tomorrow with another person. So it's been really fun just to hear everybody's story of how they got into the Dead. And, today's episode, we talk a lot about like specific concerts that he liked and what some good recordings I should listen to. And he recommends some other bands. We go on a few, we digress a few times, talk about Society. We talk about other bands. And then we get back to the Dead for the majority of the conversation. But just so you know, that is me. And I'm going to tell you guys more about me soon. Like more personal stuff, but I've just been building a channel and I hope you enjoy this episode. Hey, hello, we have Robert here. Today we have another Grateful Dead Deadhead interview. I don't know anything yet about Robert, so we're gonna start from the beginning and hopefully we'll hear some good stories and I'll learn something and hopefully all of us can learn something. So yeah, all right. So I guess I just want to hear, one, you can let me know I guess I want to hear about how you found the Dead, and then that would be, I guess, we'll start at the beginning. Like, how long have you been listening to them?
Well, the first time I ever heard of the Grateful Dead, which I have a question for you about that,
Okay.
was in fifth grade when I was 10 years old. My friend Mark, older brother, went to, well, he probably wasn't going to college yet. He asked me if I'd heard the song Casey Jones. His older brother was a Deadhead.
Mm-hmm.
We were both Well, I'm the youngest of five kids, and he was almost the youngest of four kids. So we had older siblings. So that's kind of how it came in to me through Mark. But I didn't really pay attention to them until 1973. And I bought my first album in 1974.
And how old were you then?
74, I would have been 14, 15, 14.
Okay, so you were like the age where you had, go walk over to the record
Well,
store and.
yeah, I used to ride my bicycle down to a place called Boogie Records, and it was two records dancing.
Oh,
Boogie
that's
Records.
cute. Yeah, I remember. I remember record stores. They're barely around anymore, which is too bad. So,
It is, but they are coming back, and I still have 1,000 records.
well, I love the sound of vinyl. It's a very different
Yep,
sound
a lot of
than
bands are,
digital.
yeah, a lot of bands are releasing stuff on vinyl.
It's great.
So
Okay, so
anyway,
you're
so it just, and then he gave me a couple of tapes from his brother, and yes, cassette tapes. Um, and I realized I liked them live, but I also already realized I like live music. I started going to live concerts in 73 when I was 14.
and where was this? Where were you growing up?
So, well, I grew up in Sylvania, Ohio, but the concerts are usually down in Toledo, a bigger city,
Toledo, Ohio. Okay,
which
okay,
is like an hour south of Detroit
okay.
and a couple hours west of Cleveland and a couple hours east of Chicago. So that's where I started going to
You're
concerts in
basically
that.
in the middle of everything. You're not like too
Yep.
close to anything, but you're not far from
Nope.
anything. It's like you
Correct.
can get anywhere you want, but you're not really.
Correct.
Yeah, That- that's nice.
So I enjoyed the live tapes. I enjoyed live music. I mean, my first concert was in 73, wasn't the Dead. And I really like live music. I was just drawn to live music. I think music is very important, and it always has been. And and then finally, so I would have gone and seen them in 74, but they didn't come anywhere near Toledo, and I didn't have a driver's license. So closest was Iowa. And then they broke up in 74 and didn't play in 75, so I couldn't go see them in 75. And then they got back together in 76, and I saw them in Detroit in 1976 when I was 16.
Okay. What other cool concerts did you go to around this time? Because you said you like live music, so you must have done some cool things in 74 to
I've
75.
seen probably everybody you've ever heard of. I mean, my first concert was Alice Cooper and ZZ Top.
Okay.
Um, the first concert that I found that music was more than what they played on the radio was the Mahavishnu Orchestra with John McLaughlin. I don't know if you know who that
I've
is.
never heard of that, but I love it. Every time I
So,
hear something, I'm like, oh, I'll listen to it later.
so there was a phase of music then called progressive rock, which was kind of blending jazz and rock. Mahavishnu Orchestra was like that. And then a couple months later, I had an older friend that liked music too, who had a driver's license, and I didn't yet. He took me to see Frank Zappa,
Okay, I've heard of him.
and two drummers, percussionists, horn players, Frank, great keyboard. I mean, I was like, I'm not 100% sure what's going on here, but it's really cool, and I want to know more.
Okay.
And then, I saw Genesis and Yes back in those days, which was also considered progressive rock, longer songs. So I was already used, I mean, Yes and Genesis both have a song that's the whole side of an album. Emerson, Lake and Palmer has that. So I was already used to 13, 18-minute songs.
Okay, that helps.
So Grateful Dead type stuff wasn't a shocker to me. Um, but the typical people too, Electric Light Orchestra, Bachman Turner Overdrive, um, Bob Seger, uh, Roxy Music, which was an English band I really liked. Um,
I feel like you were in the golden age. I just don't think it's like that anymore, where there's that many good bands with such good
it,
songs in the same
it,
time at the same place. Like it almost
it,
seems.
it does sometimes seem that way. Um, so there was always music. I was just looking because I was like, well, how many concerts have I been to? So I've been to over 1,200 concerts.
Wow.
And then I also used to play in a band,
Uh-huh.
and I also used to be a bartender that had live music in the bar. So I've seen a
Okay.
lot of music because I just think music is art in general is super important.
It
So
is. I mean, it really helps people. Most people don't really live in their emotions day to day. Like they're kind of like closed off to it. So I think music is very transformative for a lot of people. And for other people, it's their water, it's their air. Like it's like they can't
yeah,
live without it. So I think
yeah,
I'm like that. But I even for the non musicians, I can tell they crave it to tap into that emotion that's
yep,
easier for me to tap into naturally. Like I cry, I'm crying in my videos all the time. I'm like, oh, people are like, wow. It's like, but that's just how I am every day. It's just like everywhere I go, it's like I hear a song and I cry. Like it's just I'm very emotive, or what's the other word? It's like empath. I'm empath. So empaths kind of
empathic.
absorb the
Yep,
emotions of other
yep,
people.
yeah,
So I do that generally, and then it's like a music. It's just like like a heightened situation.
yeah.
So okay, so then the
It's
Dead were
good.
broken up.
So yeah, so they played in Detroit in '76. I was young. Um, Although you had some comments about boomers before, and I'm like, well, I'm going to send her an email because I'm a boomer. Uh,
But I need the boomers. Like I'm saying, I like boomers, but I want.
well, I didn't take it negative.
I know I see it as a positive thing because one, you guys are like the biggest generation that ever existed in America because there were so many of you, and now you have such a collective. I think because there's so many of you, just that everyone was having babies at the same time, you guys just
Yep.
have such a collective experience, and now you're all older
Yes.
together. But I still think we should record. We need to document everything you guys lived through before, because as I even see with the younger generations than me, I'm like these kids are idiots. Like I'm like we better. Like I'm teaching them, but I'm like we need the boomer knowledge.
Interesting.
Because you
Yeah.
guys knew people, your grandparents probably were born in like
Mine were born, three of them were born in the 18,
that's what I
eight-
mean. So
1890s.
you still have connections to people who were born in the late 1800s.
Yep.
We're now in 2025.
Yeah,
You
that's
have
true.
the last piece of a different century. So if we don't document all of your guys' memories, then these new kids who are born today who don't even know, like
Yeah.
when I meet kids today and they're like, "Oh, I was born after September 11th," I'm like, "That's so weird." You know what I mean? Like they're
Yeah.
born after 2001, and now there's kids who are born in like 2015 and 2020, and you're like,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
don't. Yeah, so they're just not going to know anything. I mean, so we have to, as someone who I feel like I guess I'm in the middle, right? I have to kind of be the person who gets the information and translates it to the younger, because I teach kids all the time. So I'm teaching music. I teach piano and singing. So that's my job. So I'm teaching privately. That's what I've been doing for 15 years. So I owe anything I learn. Like when I talk to kids about Beethoven and Mozart, and I always tell them how it used to be before electricity and pianos and the salon culture and
Right.
concerts, right? So anything, even to talk about this era, so one day will be very interesting to my little students. Like, you know,
I also go to classical concerts too.
okay, so one
But
maybe.
actually, that was an experience that helped me in junior high school. The school took us to four symphonies. And we sat in the balcony, which I tell people they should sit in the balcony actually at a symphony because you can see everything. And it's just, to me, it was so fascinating that 80 people are playing the same song.
Hmm.
And, uh, and my dad was in the big band and classical and those things so it was already in there. And when I saw it live, I'm like, music is just the shit. So anyway, I went to the show in '70. And back then, um, you heard about it on the radio usually or something, and you could buy tickets. Things didn't sell out like they do now. People didn't buy tickets months ahead of time. Um, so, we got tickets. We went up. There was a bunch of us from high schools, probably eight of us that went to the show. But I was like, young and like, oh, I hope I don't look so obvious to all these older folks at the concert, which eventually then I became the older folk at the concert. But the show was good. '76 was a little bit different era. Um, Totally different than like '78, '77, '78, '79, which they became to me a little more palatable to the average person. Their jams weren't quite as long, not quite as crazy. Um, little less tuning in between songs and stuff. They kind of moved on, but 76 was this, a little more spacey, kind of strange, but they did play "There Only Comes a Time" I've ever seen, which I love that song. So
Ooh, I'll have to listen to that one. No one's recommended that because again, it's
it's a
like
great song. It's actually a Jerry Band song, but he played it with the Dead.
okay. Well, I like the Jerry Garcia band so far. I'm supposed to react to Jerry Garcia band's cover of Dear Prudence, but I had to first review the White Album Disc 1 because I hadn't remembered Dear Prudence from childhood. So that's why
Yep.
last week I listened to Dear Prudence on White Album, and now I can do the Jerry Garcia band Dear Prudence.
Yes.
I had to have the original before I do the
Yeah,
cover.
you'll probably like it. It's I've been in a couple of bands that played Grateful Dead songs, and we used to cover Dear Prudence in one of them.
What do you
It's a
play?
it. I play drums.
Oh, okay. That's good.
Um, so then they came back in 77 to Detroit, and it was a larger arena, kind of like where you're going to go see Fish. And are you going to both shows?
I'm going to both Austin shows, yeah.
Okay, good for you.
Yeah, I did both of the San Francisco ones, so I learned you have to go for the whole weekend and you have to do
Yeah,
both because it's a
yeah,
different.
good.
It's
Okay,
four sets of music.
yeah, yeah. So, we heard about it on the radio. Now, Mark's older brother, I didn't realize for a while, a couple more years, they used to have a mailing list and a 415 number, a California number, where you could call it, and all they do is tell you where they're playing, no other information. Um, I didn't learn that for a couple more years.
Oh, the answering machine thing. That's what someone else was telling me about. Like you would call a number and it had like an answering machine and it would like tell
Yes,
you
and it
all
would
the.
just list the upcoming tour
Okay. Wow.
instead of please leave me a message.
Yeah.
Um,
Technology. It's like,
yeah, yeah, it would have been a cassette tape
yeah.
in the machine. But anyway, so they came in 77, and then I graduated high school. I bought a motorcycle, and I took off for a year. I went to stay with my brother who had moved to California. And then I heard on the radio, because I still didn't know how to find out underground wise where they
Hmm.
were playing, that they were playing in Los Angeles at the Shrine Auditorium where you used to live near.
Okay, you watched that episode then where I
Yes,
did
I did.
the 1969 where I was like it's 11 and Saint Stephen. I was like this is so good. Okay,
And
that
those are two of my favorite songs too. Um, so it was, and then they announced a second show because that one actually sold out. But I got tickets pretty quick. My brother Stan went with me, and that was the first time I saw him 2 nights in a row. So January of 78. And I was hooked. I'm like, this is it. I got to go to more shows. So to answer a question you may eventually ask me, I've seen the actual Grateful Dead 227 times.
227
Um,
times
and
before.
affiliated stuff almost as much.
That's counting all the side bands that any of the
No,
members made.
no, it's just the Grateful Dead.
Okay,
I've
two.
seen Phil like 95 times
Okay,
in all his stuff. I've seen Bobby probably 26 or 30 times.
so 227 is just the Grateful Dead proper, and then the
Yes.
others would be like Jerry Garcia band, Phil Lesh
Bob
Orchestra,
Weirdman,
Beer.
Phil Lesh
Okay,
and
okay.
Friends, that Go Ahead band that the other guy that you just talked to recently talked about, that Brent was in. I'm like, that's it, I'm hooked. And that was January 78. And then I did start college in Ohio University that fall. And they were on a quarter system. So you had like 5 weeks off in December. And by then I found out the number and you could call. And I did a Midwest tour in December.
Was it long distance charges like when you
Yes.
called?
It
Okay,
wasn't an 800 number yet, like it
okay,
80, like it changed in the 80s.
okay.
It became an
Yeah,
800.
because Jeff was adopted a little. Jeff is Gen
I'm
X, the
10
one I
years
interviewed
older.
first, and
I'm
so
10 years older than him.
he adapted when it was already a 1-800 number because that's
Yes.
why he was talking about the growing up in the suburbs of Chicago, not too
Yep.
far from Ohio. It sounds like where you
No.
are. But then you came in a decade earlier, so you're coming in
Yes.
when it was a little bit more underground and it wasn't established
It was a
yet.
little more difficult to find things out. And you had to know somebody that, although if I would have known, I can't remember if it was the Skull and Roses album or the Live Dead, I think it was Skull and Roses, it actually gave their address and you could join a mailing list.
Okay, you could just mail them, like send them mail.
Yes, they'd send like when they got back together in 76, they played Chicago, I think Boston and somewhere else, and it was like 5 or 6 shows each. I could look at the book to be sure, but and those were all invitation people that were on their mailing list.
Oh,
They sent them mail
right.
and said, "Do you want to go to the show?" And you could get tickets.
And then you'd send money back in an envelope.
Yeah,
Mail order, check, money, cash.
money order.
Okay,
A money order.
interesting. So it's like a whole
So
process.
now I knew in 79, I knew this. So I went on this tour. It was Cleveland, 2 shows in Pittsburgh, 3 shows in Chicago, Indy, St. Louis, 2 shows in Kansas City. But then you didn't buy tickets from them. I had to call each one of those venues, the box office during the day, long distance charges, ask them how I could get a ticket because I really didn't like showing up without a ticket. So I had to mail each box office a self-addressed stamped envelope and a money order. And that's how I got my ticket because there was no Ticketmaster, there was no internet.
No, I can't believe that people that it was so organized. Like, did they have like five? Like, you know how people have Rolodex? They
Yeah.
must have had these big folders at these venues with like all the
Yep.
seating chart, and it's like to me because on the computer it makes so much sense. It's like these seats are purchased and they
Yep.
disappear. But like when it's by paper, you're like, okay, like let's take a big paper and like cross it off as we sell them.
Yeah. And most of those shows were general admission.
Oh, that helps. So they're just counting
Yeah.
then. They're just counting how many they
Yeah.
sold, not to
Most of those
oversell
shows
the
were.
venue.
The Shrine was not. So one night I was in the balcony, and that night I realized that, oh, the box office is releasing some tickets. So I got up and I ended up getting 8th row, almost center seats. And then I just sold my seats for cheaper than I had paid for them to somebody. So they just scalped them from me. I just want to get rid of them because I just ended up with these really good seats. And that was the night that I was hooked. I was so close. And the band was a little different then. It was pre-drugs, well, pre-Jerry heroin drugs. So there was a lot more energy and a lot better communication and stuff, which slowly deteriorated over the 80s. Because
Yeah.
Jerry just kept getting more and more fucked up.
Yeah, whenever I see later videos of him, he's just looking really overweight and kind of like drained.
Yeah.
And it's not just the weight, it's like he just looks like he's
It
not.
was a lot of pressure for him to keep the machine going because he, like you said in one of your videos, became like this idol. So he was like, and I think it was a lot of pressure.
That and apparently people said all the employees they had because they
They
had
did.
the staff.
They had paid health care. They had salaries. Even when they weren't touring, they had a lot of staff that was full-time staff, like a regular business. Usually like other acts would just hire people for that tour, and then that's it. They didn't know them or anything. People just did that for a job.
Yeah, but also, what else was he gonna do? Like, I mean, like it's like as much as it's like, oh, the pressure to continue. Wasn't he kind of addicted to playing? Like, what else was he gonna
Yes, he
do? Was
was.
he gonna sit and
He
golf?
was.
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
No, he did like scuba diving. He discovered scuba diving later in life.
was he married or like did he have a partner?
He uh, was mountain girl. He had a couple children. I can't remember how many children he had now. Maybe 4.
Okay.
I'm not sure if he was married to Mountain Girl because I never really got into their personal lives very much. I was about the music.
Okay.
Um, but they knew each other throughout.
Okay.
He did
He
have
had
a
a
wife.
baby mama. Okay, so there was a baby mama
He
and
did have
his
a
four
wife at the
children.
end of his life also,
Okay.
who I think might have met in Hawaii when he was scuba diving. He went through a period where he started looking better and kind of got off the drugs for a while.
Yeah, scuba diving. Wow, I mean, scuba diving, you have to be in pretty good shape to do. I mean, you're on oxygen and the
Yeah,
tank
but you
and
can't have a little weight on you and you're going to
yeah,
float a little better.
yeah, yeah. But it
But
was funny because when I saw that video, the first one I watched where they were like, "Get off the fence" or whatever, and everyone's so thin in the audience, and I'm just like, how is everybody so thin? And that was just normal back then, you know?
yeah,
Because now all
yeah,
you see is big fat people all over
you
America.
you do.
And it wasn't that long ago. That's the thing. It's not like we're looking at, I mean, I guess now it's like 50 years ago, but it's weird because when I was growing up, it was only, I'm born in 85, so 75 was not that long ago when I was born.
Right.
But
Yeah.
by the time I'm now, whatever, we're like in 2025, it's I guess 50 years ago. It's uncanny how much our country has changed.
It is.
And kind of for the worse in a lot of ways. Like I
It
feel
is.
like things I don't know if it's because now we have information, maybe cable news. We didn't have cable news because even before the internet, we had cable news. Cable news started being like one news for the whole country versus
Right.
local stations. So, but we had newspapers, but I don't know. I think with seeing pictures of everything and videos, it's so much more in your face than when you just read an
And
article.
it, I think it makes people more sedentary.
Yes. Well, that's kids are sedentary because they have iPhones and iPads, and
Yeah.
the parents are afraid to let them run around because we know
Yes.
too much also because you
Which
hear
is,
about all these
which is,
weird
yeah.
kidnapper people.
Which is
And
like later, if you ask me, I'm into a Japanese female rock band right now. I've gone to Japan twice to see them. Totally different there. Kids are just running around,
yeah,
using the subway by
yeah.
themselves.
I was in Japan last week. That's where I went. That's where I went on my trip. There,
It's
I
it's, it's
th-
so nice. It's just
It's so
lovely.
nice. One, they're so respectful. Like the bathrooms are spotless. They don't
Yes,
leave
they
any
are.
mess in the bathrooms. Everyone's
Yep.
so
No
polite.
graffiti.
My nephew's a baby and his shoe fell off and people chased us down like, "Oh, you dropped a shoe." Like
Yeah.
no one here would even care. They would just be like, a shoe," you know?
Yeah. Like,
Someone my one of my students went over spring break and she's like a little girl but had like a little purse that didn't really have anything valuable in it. She left it on the train. The next day she went to one of those like station offices and they're like, "Oh, we have it. Someone turned it in."
of course.
Like,
Yeah. If
what?
you're on the train, what I noticed this last trip, people leave their phone on their seat and they
Yeah,
stop and they go to the bathroom while you're on the train. They don't.
they don't steal. I mean, it's really
Yeah.
amazing. I think it's because they have a sense of well, they're all monoculture. So
Yeah.
I think monocultures where everybody is the same, you have a more sense of family. You have a more sense of you are part of the same tribe. And I think that because America is so multicultural, there's a sense of us versus them. That's my sense because I've studied other cultures, and I think that when people feel like your neighborhood, like you're more on a micro level, like when you have your neighborhood and everyone knows each other, you tend to be looking out for each other's kids. But when people got more
Right.
not as friendly with their neighbors and more different types of people came in who only wanted to be friends with their own, maybe like Russian speakers only want to hang out with Russian speakers and
Right.
whatever. You could
Right.
go on and on
Yeah.
about each culture, but it's harder to integrate when you have all these different languages. And I think that people kind of stick to their own, and then there becomes less a sense of this is the culture. And in Japan, they're very pressured to. I mean, it's kind of a shame based system. I mean, they're not. They don't. It's like they don't want to. They're so like, oh no, I don't want to. You know, like here we're too. I don't think Americans are that polite.
Anyway, since you'll have this on tape, you don't have to write this stuff down. So that first tour, we'll get back to the Dead. Um, I went for most of it by myself because I decided even back then, I don't care if nobody else wants to go. This is something I want to do. So I've been to a lot of shows by myself, although I've been to a lot of shows with people. Um, but on that tour, the second night, December 1st, um, 79, you should listen to that Sugaree. I
Okay.
don't know. I don't know if you listened to Sugaree. That was the
I
first
haven't
song.
heard Sugaree yet, so if that's the best
Yeah, that's a
Sugaree.
Jerry Garcia band song, but the Grateful Dead did it all the time.
Okay.
And that's the first song I learned how to play on the drums. His solos on that Sugaree are out of control.
Okay.
So, so now by late seven, like by 79, now because when I first saw them, they were in arenas. They became a little less popular. Now they're in theaters.
Okay. So that's
So
smaller.
79, yes, theaters 3,500 to 5,000
Yeah.
instead of 18,000 to 25,000.
It's crazy they went to the smaller. Usually
They,
bands do
they,
the other
they
way.
became like just before the mid 80s, the gentleman you were talking to before, yet they actually were a little less popular, except for like New York and Philly. Um, but in the Midwest and stuff, and in California, actually in the Bay Area where I believe you are, um, throughout the early 80s, they did 3 nights at the Greek Theater in Berkeley. I don't know if you've ever been there, but
Yeah. That's
yes,
outdoor. The Greek Theater is
yes.
outdoor. It's kind of big.
8,000.
Yeah, okay. But you're
They
saying the
changed it a
arenas
little
were like
bit.
20,000 or 30,000. Okay.
Yeah, they changed it a little bit. It might hold 10 now.
Yeah.
Back then it was 8,000. But they do Friday, Saturday, Sunday every year at the Greek Theater. And it wasn't, you could get tickets. It wasn't like, there's no way that would, now a band that pop,
And that's when what was the gray touch of gray? That's when they
it's
got really
pre-Touch of
popular.
Grey. Once Touch
Okay.
of Grey came out, they moved up to football stadiums.
Okay, and that's when everyone said the scene was ruined. Whatever. Like,
So somewhat, it just got too big. It became this like a boulder rolling downhill. You just couldn't stop it.
and then that was where people taught me the word trustafarian, which was like the trust fund babies who wanted to be fake hippies or whatever.
Uh, yeah, I was thinking about it earlier when this came up. I hate to miss some of the better years earlier, but we could jump to this
We
for
can
the
go
moment.
back too. No, we
Yeah, we
finish
could
this
jump
and
to
then
this.
we'll go back because I want to go
Yeah,
in
we could
order.
jump to
But
this for the moment. So I took my son to quite a few shows, and I was actually on the last tour
okay.
before Jerry died in '95. And some of the stuff I saw in Detroit, and they were playing basketball arenas and football stadiums. Um, it's like in the '70s, when we took acid or something, it was more to become enlightened or learn something. I mean, I did it maybe 15 or 20 times, and the last time I did, I'm like, I don't think I can learn anymore, so I stopped doing it. It seemed like that scene in the '90s, pe- they were, I don't know if they were necessarily trust fund kids or not, but people were just getting wasted just to be wasted, not not to experience something or learn anything about themselves. They were just fucked up. And I mean, actually, I didn't see the last show, but I saw the second to last show, and I turned to my wife at the time. I'm like, I'm done. I'm not going to go to another Grateful Dead concert. There's just too many. They're just wasted, just to be wasted. So they're not even really, which is why I was there, experiencing the music because they're too wasted.
Right.
And and there was all kinds of different drugs. People were just doing acid or pot or something. There
Right.
was
It's
all
also
kinds
just
of drugs.
also people just drunk, it sounds like. I mean, if they're just
A lot of
legitimately
drunk
drunk.
people, but a lot of mushrooms, a lot of combination of stuff. And you're just out of it. I'm like, well, you're missing the whole point.
Yeah, I'm not like that either. That was why I was a little afraid to get involved in, like the jam band scene. I was worried about the drug culture of it, because
It's
I'm,
changed a little bit,
yeah.
the modern ones, which I can send you or tell you later a whole list of bands I think you might be interested in.
Oh, I'd love that later. But yeah,
Um, but it's changed. People aren't getting wasted like that anymore. They'll do what they call microdosing with
yeah.
mushrooms now,
Yes,
which is a little
tiny,
bit.
the little
Yeah, they don't
chocolate,
get
and it's
all
just,
wasted. And I don't see quite as much alcohol
I heard Gen Z doesn't
show.
drink as much actually.
Yeah, they microdose or vape
Yeah, but Gen Z's
marijuana.
vape, yeah. Well, yeah, and even nicotine. I mean, the Gen Zs don't even drink. Some of them are sober from alcohol. It's just not something they
Right.
do.
So
And
the scene of jam bands, I don't like. I think you'll thoroughly enjoy the Dead and Company shows. There's not going to be a bunch of super wasted people.
no, I mean, I think it's just going to be a lot of Deadheads. I mean, when I went to Goose, it was a lot of Deadheads. I was surprised at the Goose concert how old the crowd was. I was like, wait a minute, isn't there supposed to be a younger band? Like, and then everybody was like over 50. And I was like, that's interesting.
Yeah, I'm not. I've listened to them. They played in Flagstaff here. I thought about it, but I didn't like some of their jams. I'm not drawn into them.
Their jam has a certain style. I didn't like it as much as Fish jams, but that's because Fish is progressive. Fish is what
Yes.
you were describing, the jazz and fusion funk.
Hey,
Fish
look
is
at the
jazz
dog
and
again.
fusion. Oh, okay, it's fine. The dog.
Yes, there's a band called Pigeons Playing Ping Pong.
I heard about it, and it sounds too obscure to be real, but it's
They're
real.
they're very funk, like
Okay.
funk jam. They're fun. They're a
Okay.
lot of fun.
Okay, I'd probably like that then.
Um, and I have seen Fish a lot. I wrote this like 26 times probably.
Wow.
They did go through a little period where I thought they were just becoming, and this was just me personally, a kind of a wall of noise.
Uh-huh.
But that's when Trey was having his heroin problems too.
Yes, a lot of people don't like that period either. They're just like, oh, look, Trey's just like drugged out and
I first saw them in '93. I mean, the Dead were still around the first time I saw Fish, and um, it was one of those bands where I didn't really know their songs, but I was like, I don't know everything going on here, but I find these guys interesting. So I started learning about them.
it's interesting. Their music's very, I think, stimulate, like intellectually stimulating. Like I find it very like oh okay, like I'm not bored, and so that's why I liked it. And then they're weird and kind of like theater. It's kind of theater. A lot of it's theater. I mean, he has a musical, so some of the songs are literally like from a
Yeah.
musical. And there's like a story, and I like that. That's what I like about Queen is that it's very theatrical. And then even when I was
Yeah.
listening, I last night I listened to The Doors' Greatest Hits, and it's coming out. I mean, it's out for members right now. But basically, I was like, wow, every Jim Morrison song is so dramatic. It's like
Yes.
there's like it's like a deep like come on baby light my fire show me the way to the next whiskey bar like it's extremely I'm like we're in a melodrama right now like this is
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
different kind of and I know that was well I don't know if that's progressive it was like the 60s beatnik thing I don't know like the Doors have something to do with that.
It was more of a bridge between beatniks and hippie because beatniks were actually 50s.
Okay.
Hippies, they didn't really know they were hippies yet. You
Okay.
know, 66, 67, they still wore skinny little black ties and at the acid test and had short hair. So, I
Okay,
mean, what people think are hippies is really like 69, 70, 71, 72.
so what were people before
I mean,
68?
well, they were becoming hippies, but they still dressed like that 50s look with the skinny black tie and the white shirt.
So they were like
But they
preppy,
were going to an acid
so
test,
they were
just like
yuppies.
that, you know.
Okay. So they were, that's so interesting.
Well,
Yeah.
society in general was different. I mean, people wore ties. My dad wore hats still in the 60s.
Yeah. People dressed up. Okay. So your dad had to wear a hat to work, like a fedora.
Yes, he had like a Sunday go to meeting hat and an everyday
And
hat.
your mom probably wore skirts all the time and wore like a little
Dresses, yeah.
hat. Yeah.
Dresses, really skirts,
Yeah.
yes.
Dresses and then like a little travel
I don't
cap.
remember her having hats, but the men still wore hats when I was very young.
So interesting. I know
Uh,
my mom said, because she's born in 1956, she said they weren't allowed to wear pants at school till seventh grade.
yeah, I believe it.
Yeah.
I was born in '59.
Yeah. So all the girls had to wear skirts and dresses, and then it was, I guess, 70. She went to college in 74, so it was probably like 70, 68 or so, and they're like, oh, you can
Yeah,
wear pants now, but
yeah,
only a certain
things
type.
were things were starting to really change.
Yeah.
67, 68, 69.
It's interesting. What do you think, and what do you think that was? Like, why do you think there was so much change? Because this has to do with the Dead anyway. Like, it really is part of that genesis of the Dead. Like, what do you
Yeah,
think?
well, I mean, they started in '65,
Hmm.
so I mean, um, I think for me, part of it was the Vietnam War, and then the assassin. You know, back then they just killed their opponents instead of buy. Now they just buy them.
Hmm.
But you know, I'm old enough. I was young, but I remember JFK being assassinated,
Hmm.
Malcolm X being assassinated, Martin Luther being assassinated, Bobby Kennedy being assassinated.
And that all happened within a few
Uh,
years.
uh, Kennedy was 64, Malcolm was mid 60s, and Martin Luther and Bobby were both 68.
And then
And then
didn't
there was a riot at the Democratic Convention in 1968, and this stuff was on TV in
it,
Chicago.
oh, the it was the assassination ended up getting broadcasted.
So
Oh, the
yes,
riots of
the
the
riot was
convention.
on TV, but you did see more. I mean, there is footage of Bobby getting shot.
Yeah, at that hotel,
Um,
right?
and then I think part of it was there just became a big anti-war thing in the Vietnam War. It's like my local newspaper every Sunday in the tri-state area, Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, would print the faces of young men that had died in Vietnam.
Ugh, so sad.
There was never a Sunday that I can remember in 68, 69, 70 where there wasn't at least one face in the paper. sometimes there was 14.
Right. So it became
And I
very
think
real
it
to
drove
people.
it became very real. And the media started saying there was people going over there. We knew more how ugly war is. And that affected the youth of the country. And they said, we've had enough. And they found LSD. And they thought originally LSD was going to be the path to a better world. It's not what had happened, but that was the thought. And then the music started to change. People started to write protest songs.
Oh, is that
Uh,
like the Bob Dylan? I saw that documentary. Is that kind of like the folk movement?
he's got the one that the times they are a changing.
Yeah.
That song, which that Black Sabbath in the late '60s had a song called War Pigs, which is worth at least one listen. Um, uh, I can't remember the gentleman's name that had that song, War. What
Was
is
it
it
good
good
for?
for?
Absolutely nothing.
Absolutely
Yeah.
nothing.
It was on the Forrest Gump soundtrack.
Yes. And so um, uh, and Buffalo Springfield had, something's happening here. There's a man with a gun over there. I mean,
But then
it was
how did it go from that to all the weird cults and like the people that kidnapped Hearst or whatever the
Patty
pet
Hearst.
yeah and then like the one in LA Charles Manson like how did wasn't that like right after all this so wasn't that scary.
Manson, so he was, I can't remember when he got busted, when that happened. The early '70s. Kent State happened in the early '70s where they shot the kids. The National Guard shot the four kids, which is the song Ohio from Neil Young. Um, but the cult thing, I think there's always been cults. There's cults now. There's
Okay.
just some people are just searching outside of themselves and they buy into some bullshit that somebody spouts, and then now you've got a group of 50 of them or whatever.
The Hale
I
Bob
think that's
comet like it was like weird.
I think that's probably been throughout time.
Well, there are some
Um,
people who are deadheads but they're cultish deadheads. Didn't some people think that Jerry was like a messiah?
well, yeah, or he spoke to me, yeah, but that's because you don't have enough self-confidence. We need better education. Um, yeah, some people are just searching for an answer outside themselves, and some of them happen to think it was Jerry. Some think it was Krishna, those people that used to have a little ponytail with the shaved heads, sell you something at the airport. Um, I can't remember the name of the group that supposedly kidnapped Patty Hearst, because there's a chance she did it on her own. She joined the group. Um, but I don't know. Those things just are there. Uh, the Manson thing, who knows? I
That
mean,
was so weird. But the
I
movie,
just
The Once
hate.
Upon a Time in Hollywood, did you see that
Yes,
movie? I
yes.
love how it just transported you back to 70s LA. And it was
Except the
so
ending wasn't what actually happened,
no,
though.
I know that. But I'm
Okay.
saying, but the way the scenery and the cars and the
Yes.
way
Yeah,
they
you did a good
filmed
job. That's a
the
very
the film,
different
it's what I
character.
imagine like 'cause I used to see old stuff that was filmed in the 70s and they made it just look like and my parents grew up in LA in the 70s because they were in LA. So I always have like a wow, that's what it was like it was so not the I know it wasn't the end was like a ridiculous like let's change the story but like the rest of the like the characterization and the way the set looked I thought it was very
Yeah, it was well
transformative.
done.
Okay, let's go back to the dead in
Okay.
the chronologic because we have to now get from where we were to
Okay, so
when
I
it
did
got
my
ruined
first
in Touch of Grey.
I did my first tour in '79. I had started college in Ohio. Um, one of my favorite shows, if I had to list my 10 favorite shows, was on that tour. And then um, I just started in the '80s. It became a little easier to find out where the shows were. And in the early '80s, they took control of their own ticket sales. So you just mail them something, then you get tickets from them to like pre-Ticketmaster stuff, where they add all these fees and everything. My first Dead show was $6.50.
What?
Um,
Yeah, but that would be worth like $30 today. It was like $6 back then.
so, in '80, I saw them a few times. I went on a a spring 3 show trip on my motorcycle with my then girlfriend. Um, the Hampton Coliseum show was pretty good, and now they're starting to get a little bigger. You can pick and choose. Sometimes you can see them in a theater, sometimes it's a basketball arena.
Okay.
Um, they definitely were not up to football stadiums, though. Um, so I went to some spring shows, and and then in '81, well, in '80, then I moved to Arizona and transferred to Arizona State. So in '81, I did my first summer tour, which I still, '81 was, I think, the last year I had a mail to each venue. And the one in Austin, Texas, was a place called Manor Downs. It was outdoors. You didn't send it to like a P.O. box or something. It was P.O. Drawer 7.
I've never heard of a PO
So they just
drawer.
had drawers instead of boxes in Austin, Texas.
Everything's bigger in Texas, so they had to have a
So
whole.
so that was my first summer tour. I did it on my motorcycle. I would have been 21. It started in Texas and ended up in went up through Kansas City, St. Louis, St. Paul, uh, Alpine Valley, which the gentleman before was talking about. That's where they used to go to shows from Chicago. And then '82 was my big year. I mean, I'm totally hooked. Any spare time I have, I'm going to go to a show. So I saw them like 26 times, and Jerry 6 times, and Bobby 3 times in '82. I did the summer tour. I think there was no month in '82 where I didn't see a show.
Wow.
I did that place up in Stanford, Frost Amphitheater. That's when I started doing the Greek theater runs, 3 shows there. Then they would do 2 shows in Ventura, California at the fairgrounds, Saturday and Sunday. I did all those for like 4 years in a row. So I was just hooked. It just made me feel good. And, um, and then I didn't go to a lot in '83 and '84 so much. And then '85 on the 20th anniversary tour, I went on the summer tour. I went to the '84 New Year's run, and I actually was selling T-shirts back then. And this is the T-shirt.
Oh my gosh, you still have it.
I have several. I
Because you didn't sell out.
actually had one new one that I gave to a woman at the nursery where I buy my plants for the garden.
Ah.
A young woman, she liked a government mule shirt I had. She goes, "Oh, I love Grateful Dead shirts." I had one unworn medium left, and I took it to her.
Wow.
Um, so anyway, a friend of mine at the time, when I played drums, I had him made a stick bag for me for, spare sticks because you drop sticks sometimes. And I said, "Glenn, I want you to do the 2 Terrapin Turtles." And did leather art. So I was going to make a stick bag with some art on it. I said, "I want the 2 Terrapin Turtles standing on a golden road," which is a song from their first album, "overlooking a valley of pyramids with the sun setting." And when he gave me the bag, I'm like, "Oh my God, we're putting this on a shirt." Except now we're going to put it in a bed of roses all the way around it. And so he did the thing. We made, the silk screens and made shirts. So in New Year's '84 and quite a few shows in '85, I actually sold shirts.
Okay.
Um, and I did that '85 summer tour in a 1957 Chevy.
Okay. That's old. I guess at the time it was very old. I mean,
It was old, but it was cool.
yeah.
It was fun. Um, I went with my girlfriend to all those shows at the time. At the time, I loved them, but now looking back at life, I realized Jerry was starting to get wasted. There was way more mistakes being made. That once I listened to the tapes later,
You
and
were
you could,
enjoying being there, so the experience was still giving
the
you that,
experience was
like, you were
great.
having the
Like,
energy.
I'm 25. I got my girlfriend. We're on a road trip. The summer tour started at the Greeks and and then went all the way back to New York, and then ended up at Ventura. shows in Ventura. So I mean, it
Hmm.
was like we went across the whole country. We went to Yellowstone and Mount Rushmore and
Right. So how could you complain? But you weren't listening to the tapes with like a critique.
right
You weren't putting
with
on
a
the critique hat.
critiquing
Yeah.
ear.
Yeah.
I now realize that that's kind of when the band itself started to deteriorate a little bit because nobody actually confronted him about this problem.
That's weird. I guess
And
not.
then right after that, Touch of Grey came out, and it just exploded. And now it was just cool to pretend you were a hippie kind of thing. And
Hmm.
I mean, they were doing football stadiums, and just concerts just aren't as enjoyable in a football stadium as they are in a at the Greek Theater.
Yeah. No, I don't like stadium shows.
So like I won't go anymore. I have friends that are like I just actually had lunch yesterday with the bass player from the first band I was in. Um, and he's like, you got to go see the Sphere in Vegas. I'm like, it holds 20,000 people. I will not do that anymore. He goes, but it's just the sound is great. I'm like, I understand. I've seen pictures. It holds 20,000 people. I don't do that anymore. And bands, they're $150. So I tend to watch younger bands now. The tickets are still under $50 and they're playing
Hmm.
places that are less than 1,000 people.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I liked when, I mean, even at least officially did Bill Graham 8,000. It's very cozy. I liked it. But I'm
Oh, you
saying,
saw them there? I've seen them
yeah, it
there.
was at Bill Graham. It was really nice. I love that it was indoor, and I love that it was only 8,000. I was like, this is good. And then Goose played at the Masonic. It's tiny. That
I've been
Masonic.
there too.
So I was like, oh, that's great. So that's one of the reasons I went is that the ticket was under $70 and it was
Yeah.
in the Masonic, and I was like, oh, cool, small venue,
I saw Van
indoor.
Morrison there.
Yeah,
If you
I
know
like
what
the
that is.
small. I agree. I like the well. And then recently, I went to the Fillmore and saw They Might Be Giants because I've liked They Might
Yeah.
Be Giants since the '90s, and that's
You-
even smaller and even more intimate. I like that. I agree. I think those are more fun for concerts than I took my daughter to
you-
see Lady Gaga at the San Francisco Giants, whatever stadium, whatever
Right.
it's called now, and it was fine. It's a stadium show, but it was like,
Yeah.
you could just watch it on
Uh,
TV at that point.
Phil used to play at the Fillmore with Phil and Friends. I've seen quite a few shows there. And Government Mule also used to play there. I don't know if you know who they are.
It's just a cool theater. They have all the pictures up of
It
everyone who's
is.
been there, and it's like very historic. And
So one of the best Help Slip Franklin's and Music Never Stops is from the Great American Music Hall in 75, which is worth a listen. And
okay,
The Eyes of the World from that show too.
see, I'm glad when this because this is all recorded, I can just watch it anytime. I
It
can
was one of the
scoot.
first, like, after the Dead was later, way later, it was one of the first things they officially released, a soundboard of that show.
Great.
Um, that's a cool place to go to. Only holds maybe 12, 1,500 people. It's a little smaller than the Fillmore. It's in a sketchy part of town, but
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been there.
it's worth seeing a show there.
Okay, Great American Music Hall. I can't believe I've never been there. I'm looking it up right now. It
It's
looks
pretty
really
small. A lot of
pretty.
bands, they have a lot of music still.
Yeah, wow, it's so pretty. Oh, I know what they've had. There's a party they have there sometimes, like a masquerade thing. That's why I
Yeah,
was like, why does it look so familiar to me? They had some like kind of gothic masquerade party there because it looks kind of gothic actually.
yeah. There's a
So
lot of music there.
cool. No,
And
San
then
Francisco is a great place to live because
and
of
then
that.
the Warfield also is a good place to go.
Yeah, I've been there. But
Yeah.
it's great they have it's nice to have so many venues, and then I've been to a bunch of venues in LA as well because they have really cool theaters all over LA.
Yes, they do. And I know we're going to edit some of this out because we're talking about so many other things, but how long are you going to be in Austin?
Just a weekend.
I don't know if you saw in that email.
I
You have to.
did, but no, but I can go. I can go back to Austin's such an easy. It was so the flights are always on sale, and like there's the Bay
Okay.
Area has so many. We have so many tech people that there's multiple flights a day to Austin back and forth.
Right.
So there was multiple choices just on United. It was like you wanted to go at 7 a.m. or you wanted to go at 8 a.m. It was like,
Right.
and Alaska flies there and Southwest flight, like so many
Yeah.
options. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I can go back to Austin anytime, and I'm sure I will because there'll be the next time there's like a concert that I need to go there, and then I'll go for longer.
Right.
And I have friends there, so like I can stay with them. So I'm not
Yeah.
worried.
So they may have heard of the Elephant Room, but so I was there for a conference, and there's like I don't know 6th Street, 5th Street, 7th Street, I don't
Sixth Street
know,
is the
6th
big
Street.
going out one.
So I like went into like four things, and the band's just I'm like this isn't doing anything for me. And then I went and had dinner, and because I do so many things on my own, I eat at the bar usually,
Yeah, that's good.
a restaurant bar. And I was telling the bartender this. I'm like, oh, that's pretty disappointed, man. I was like, just kind of music. He goes, oh, do you like jazz? And I'm like, yeah. He goes, oh, just a couple doors down, this basement. It's called the Elephant Room. And so my conference, I was there for 7 days. So that was the first day. I went every single night afterwards. It's some of the best music I've ever
I
seen.
just looked up the website now, and yeah, they're having shows every night, and some nights they have it
It's
early,
just
6
local
p.m. and
musicians. They all play with each other's band. It's just, and it's different every night. Um, just some of the best music I've ever seen, to be honest.
that's great. I love it. Okay, so then do you not do anything to do with Dead and Company?
So I did finally go see them. Everybody that knows I like the Dead. I mean, I also had like some jobs I've had. Well, I was the controller at a country club for a long time, and there was a couple women that were fish heads, and we talk about the Dead, and they also knew the Dead, but they were younger and they were fish heads. And oh, you should go see Dead and Company. You should go see Dead and Company. I mean, I saw there was a band before them with Phil and Bobby called Further, which I saw them quite a bit. I liked them. I more like Phil's bands afterwards because his guitar players didn't try to mimic Jerry. They played their own style, but were playing a Grateful Dead song with Phil. Who are
Yeah,
great.
I could see that being.
And so I liked that better than somebody. So I went to see Dead and Company, 2 shows at the Hollywood Bowl, 2 shows at Shoreline. Maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I don't remember now. I know I've been back 5 years, so probably 7 years ago. Um, and there's some stuff I liked and some stuff I didn't, but I don't want to taint your
No, I mean, I'm
experience.
just for me, it's like I never got to see. I mean, look, I was didn't Jerry die in 1995?
95, August of 95.
Yeah, I would have just been turning 10. So even if I had been old enough to go, I wouldn't have been old enough to see him. You know what I'm saying? He was deteriorated
Right.
by then. So it's
Yeah.
it's like there's I can't even have experienced what you experienced. Like there's no way. Even
Right.
if I had been a 5-year-old who was taken to concerts, it would not
So,
even have been the right Jerry to see.
right, right.
So that's all I have.
Um, so yeah, to me, they're kind of a caricature of the Grateful Dead.
Yeah.
But the keyboard player, Jeff Tremaine, I've seen in tons of bands. He's amazing. The bass player, O'Teal, amazing. The guy that's filling in for Billy, Jeff Lane, I've seen in a bunch of bands. Great drummer. I mean, the musicians are great. Mayer's his own famous in his own right.
Yeah.
Um, but no, it's just not for me. And it's huge crowds and it's expensive.
Yeah. No, I
So
agree.
I've just kind of
Yes.
slowly
For
gone away
me,
from.
it works for what my channel is, and I can take a lot of good footage
Yes,
of the
and
people and meet
you'll have a
people.
great
Yeah,
time.
it's great. But again, I'm coming in new with a different perspective. But
Yeah,
I like that I can watch all these old videos and listen to old recordings, and you can glean a lot that way. And I think it's not really ever going to be a direct comparison for me. It's going to be like this is one thing. It's like I don't really compare Fish to the Dead. You know what I'm saying? Like Fish, it's its own thing. That's what I try to
fish.
explain to everybody. Everything's its own thing, and you don't have to compare things to each other, and you don't have to like one more than the other. You just have to understand that they all have their own thing.
So fish is kind of a combination of the Grateful Dead and Frank Zappa. You can hear Frank Zappa in their music a lot.
I'll have to listen to some Zappa then, because I
I
haven't
can
really.
send you some suggestions of songs. Um, he was a very interesting character, and he was one of the other few people that didn't always play the same set every night
Okay,
back in the day.
that's cool.
First time I saw him before I saw the Grateful Dead, actually. That was one of the shows that made me go, I need to dig more into this non-radio music.
Yeah, exactly. There's so
So
much
like
more
as
to
a
the world.
teenager, high schooler, I was like kind of proud to be listening to bands that nobody else was listening to. None of the pop culture stuff.
Gotta have your
And
scene.
so they're back 85. And then in 86, had some tickets and Jerry went into the diabetic coma. So they canceled the shows. Um, we sent him back. You got a refund. Now I wish I would have kept him. But um, and then he actually had to kind of relearn to play guitar.
Yeah, I heard about that.
So 87, so that changed. And then Touch of Grey came out. So Jerry was a little bit different, and then the crowd changed. Um, the comment before people coming in, I'm happy to meet any new person that's actually enjoying the music and listening to the music, and it makes them happy, if that's why they're there. But the crowds got pretty big, and that's not why people were there. They were there for the scene.
Yeah.
Like he was saying, there was more people outside sometimes than there were inside.
Uh-huh. Oh,
And
so I actually have to end because I do have
okay,
4 o'clock, but we can continue this like a part 2 another day.
okay,
But yes, this was so informative, and thank you. And then you can take notes on what we didn't get to talk about, and then we can do a whole nother like second episode because there's so much
okay.
to
I
talk
have
about.
one quick question.
Yes.
So you're 39,
Uh-huh.
and before you started doing this dead thing, you did. You said you said you never heard the name Grateful Dead?
No, I
Or
heard the
you
name.
heard any
I had
song?
never listened
Okay,
to a song. I heard
okay,
of the band. I knew the logo. I saw the T-shirts. I had just never
okay.
listened.
I'm like, there's no way.
No, I've heard of the Dead. I never
Okay,
heard them.
okay,
Okay, that's clear. Everyone now knows for the record. Okay, I gotta go. Okay, bye.
okay. Bye.